At 12:30 in the afternoon on November 22nd, 1963, shots rang out and history was changed. President John F. Kennedy had been riding in the 1961 Lincoln Continental Presidential Limo through Dealey Plaza in Dallas, Texas, when he was tragically assassinated. The act rocked the nation, and even today there are still questions and conspiracies about what actually happened, but understandably, it led to some massive changes as well, including changes for future presidential limos. Welcome back to All Cars, y'all. If you're new here, my name is John, and this is a far too brief history of the presidential limousine. In the early days of our republic, the president traveled by carriage. While these were ornate and reflected the office, they were no more ostentatious than those of the wealthy. Comfort and prestige were the driving factors, and security was not a primary concern. Washington set the tone with a cream-colored carriage pulled by 6 matched horses. Through the 1800s, the carriages were custom-built or gifts from wealthy benefactors, and typically were open for parades or processions and closed for privacy. Security was typically provided by local police riding with the procession. Of note, Lincoln rode to Ford's Theater the eventful night of his assassination in a carriage made by H&C Studebaker, yes, later the famous maker of cars. It must be mentioned here that the Secret Service was formally formed by Lincoln on the very day he was shot, but its first mission was as a branch of the Treasury to combat counterfeiting after the Civil War. Presidential security wasn't a part of their obligation. Ulysses S. Grant is a notable character here as well. After the Civil War and the freeing of the slaves, he was elected president in 1869 and custom designed his own carriage to include compartments under the driver's seat for refreshments. He was also a passionate horseman and a trainer and loved going fast. In 1872, the D.C. police heard of carriage street racing, yes, really, in the wealthier parts of town and assigned an officer to stop it. One night, the officer, a black man and Union vet named William Henry West, flagged down Grant for speeding and told him he was, quote, setting a poor example for the other gentlemen of the city. Grant promised to slow down to regulation speed, but was caught the very next day with 6 other racers by the very same officer. Surprisingly, the president and the others were taken to the police station. He paid a $20 bond, didn't show up for his hearing with the judge, and later sent a message to the chief of police complimenting West for doing his duty. The first president to even ride in an automobile was William McKinley, who in July 1901 took a brief ride in a Stanley steamer. Unfortunately, McKinley was assassinated on September of that year, after which Congress requested the Secret Service to begin protection of presidents. In 1902, only 2 agents were full-time, and funding wasn't established for protection until 1906. Next, Teddy Roosevelt, upholding his Rough Rider's reputation, continued to use a horse-drawn carriage, but the Secret Service embraced the auto and purchased a 1907 white motor steam car to follow the president. Roosevelt's successor, William Taft, became the president to convert the White House stables into a garage and purchased a fleet of 4 cars, 2 Pierce Arrows, a Baker electric car, and a 1911 white steam car. He became a particular fan of the white when he found he could release steam that would hide him from photographers. Taft's successor, Woodrow Wilson, purchased 3 Pierce Arrow cars and liked them so much he bought one from the government when he left office in 1921. Warren Harding followed and became the first president to ride to his inauguration in a car, a Packard Twin 6. FDR bought a Ford V8 Phaeton Coupe in 1936 and had it modified so he could drive it by hand controls, defying Secret Service rules that the president couldn't be behind the wheel. In 1939, the era of the specialty car outfitted to Secret Service specifications began. The famous Sunshine Special was a 1939 Lincoln V12 convertible on a K-Series chassis and a 106-inch wheelbase with heavy-duty suspension. It was outfitted with rear suicide doors, room for 10 passengers, armor, and bulletproof glass, and standing platforms on the outside for agents. It was modified twice, the second time in 1942 after Pearl Harbor, adding armor, 1-inch thick bulletproof glass, flat-proof inner tubes, two-way radio, siren, warning lights, and a compartment for submachine guns. By then, the car was 6 feet longer and weighed 9,300 pounds. It traveled the world to wartime summits such as Yalta and Malta and became the first limo to be leased rather than purchased. But the first armored presidential limo actually was in December of 1941, right after Pearl Harbor. While the Sunshine Special was being sent off to be modified and armored, the Treasury Department in 1932 had confiscated Al Capone's car. The glass was bulletproof, the rest of the body was not armored, but it was given to the presidential fleet for his use until early 42 when the Sunshine Special was returned. Truman was next, and it said he harbored a grudge against General Motors for refusing him cars during his presidential run. So in 1950, he continued the trend of using Lincolns, the White House leasing 10 Cosmopolitans, which were modified by Henney and armored by Hess and Eisenhart. 9 were modified for extra headroom for gentlemen wearing hats, but the 10th was a convertible that was 20 feet long, weighing 6,500 pounds, and powered by 152 horsepower V8. Eisenhower had the convertible fitted with a plexiglass roof known as the bubble top, and it remained in service until 1965. In 1961, JFK became president, and a new presidential limo was in order, codenamed the X100. This time, a 1961 Continental leased from Ford for $500 a year and modified by Hess and Eisenhart for $200,000 or about $2 million today. Stretched 3.5 feet, it included AC, fire extinguisher, first aid kit, siren, lights at the bumper, radio, telephones, retractable standing platforms and handles, and a hydraulic lift that could raise the rear seat 10.5 inches. With 3 removable tops, fabric, metal, or transparent plastic, it was painted presidential blue metallic with silver flakes in it. After the assassination, the car was stripped and the removed parts destroyed, and it was rebuilt at an estimated cost of $500,000. The body was painted black and armored, the glass made bulletproof, and a curved glass top made of 13 pieces of bulletproof glass was constructed. The fuel tank had a porous foam added to help prevent leakage or explosion, and run-flat tires were added. Weight ballooned 25% to 9,800 pounds, so a hand-built V8 making 350 horsepower was crafted. Modified again in 1967, this car continued to serve presidents from Johnson, Nixon, Ford, and Carter until it was retired in 1977. Johnson got a 1967 Lincoln Continental as his state car with 4,000 pounds of armor and a bubble top, a 340 horsepower V8 that could propel the 11,000-pound car up to 100 miles an hour or 50 with 4 flat tires. Modified by Ford at a cost of approximately $500,000, it was leased to the government for just $1 a year. It also served Nixon, Ford, and Carter before being retired in the 70s. Ford restored this car and donated it to the Nixon Presidential Library. In 1974, a new car was delivered, this time a 72 Continental, 22 feet long on a wheelbase of 161 inches and 13,000 pounds. It could carry 6 passengers with its 460 cubic inch V8, making all of 214 horsepower. New safety features now included full armor plate, of course bulletproof glass, racks for submachine guns, and external microphones so that those inside could hear the outside. This car had an eventful service life. President Ford survived an attempted assassination attempt in September of 75, and just 17 days later survived a second attempt where he was pushed into the limo and rushed away. This is also the limousine Ronald Reagan was using when there was an attempted assassination of him in March of 81 by John Hinckley. The car was hit with 2 shots, damaging one side window and a rear quarter panel before being used to take Reagan to the hospital. After that, the car was returned to Ford, where it received a new interior and a new front, including the grille from a 79 Lincoln. It continued to serve until H.W. Bush, when it was retired in 92. In 83, Cadillac became the next presidential limo with a modified Fleetwood. 17 inches longer and 3 inches taller than standard, the weight from its armor and bulletproof glass necessitated oversized wheels and tires, heavy-duty brakes, and a leveling system. In '89, another Lincoln was used, this time a town car, modified to 22 feet long and 5 feet tall for the Bush administration, and lengthened to provide extra interior space accommodating rear-facing seats. In '93, President Clinton used another Cadillac Fleetwood. Little facts exist around this one, except that former Secret Service agents verified it included phones, satellite, and internet capability. For 2001 and the George W. Bush administration, one of the most famous presidential limos was delivered and lovingly referred to as the Beast. Cadillac no longer had a car suitable to be converted, as the ever longer list of requirements had negatively affected the longevity of previous limos, with failing transmissions and brakes wearing out quickly. This time, GM took on designing the car as a custom from the ground up to meet the specifications. While the car looks like a DeVille, it's believed it was derived from the full-size SUVs like the Escalade with a 7.44-liter engine. Modifications included sealed passenger area with its own air supply, folding desk, reclining seats with massage, along with the now obligatory bulletproof glass and panels. All of this combined to an estimated 14,000 pounds of weight, and the extra height helps shield the president as he enters or exits the vehicle. The next one debuted in 2009 in time for President Obama. Once again a custom build, but now resembling a car with an Escalade grille, it's believed to have been based on a GMC medium-duty truck chassis, partly because it uses tires normally intended for medium-duty trucks. This model built on the previous specifications like foam-filled gas tank, racks for guns, onboard air sources, bulletproof panels and glass, but also added night vision optics, a tear gas cannon, and the passenger area was sealed against chemical attacks. Weight was estimated to be between 15,000 and 20,000 pounds and could now only reach 60 miles an hour. The current limo was commissioned in 2014, once again with GM providing them, and the new models still being referred to as the Beast, being put in service in 2018. Estimated to cost about $1.5 million each, it's believed to be an evolution of the previous model and built to resemble an XT6 or Escalade sedan based on the same GMC Top Kit platform. 6 feet tall, capable of carrying 7 passengers and an estimated 20,000 pounds, it features the defensive specs of the previous model, including being hermetically sealed, and includes smoke screens, oil slicks, the ability to fire tear gas, the door handles can be electrified, and storage of bags of blood of the president's type. An NBC article had more details on its setup, including that the armor is a mix of steel, aluminum, and ceramic to counter specific threats. The doors are believed to be at least 8 inches thick, the glass is 5 inches, and each door weighs as much as those on a 757 aircraft. Ending with some trivia this time, there's some changes that came out of the Kennedy assassination you may not be familiar with. First up is that it was not a federal crime in 1960s to assassinate the president. In fact, if Lee Harvey Oswald had gone to trial, it would have been in the state under state law. Second, there was some question about presidential succession. Article 2, Section 1, Clause 6 of the Constitution was vague as to whether only the powers of the president went to the vice president or if he actually became the president. While Vice President Johnson was inaugurated and assumed the position, it led directly to the 25th Amendment to specify and clarify the line of succession and when it was to apply. Finally, what happens to retired presidential limos? Some in the past have been restored, equipment removed, and given to museums like Sunshine Special, the Bubble Top, and the 72 Lincoln being at the Henry Ford, or Clinton's 93 Fleetwood at the Clinton Presidential Center. It became the standard of the Secret Service to keep decommissioned cars and destroy them with bullets and explosives, not only evaluating the protection methods, but also destroying the secrets they hold. And finally, with the last one coming into service in 2018, and an awful lot of these limos being spaced about 8 years apart, it's about time for a new one. I suspect they'll keep on building what they've already done, and it'll become ever bigger and ever heavier. But honestly, I'm super interested to see what it turns out to be. Thanks so much for being here, and a special thanks to my Patreons who make videos like this possible. If you support this type of news, this type of video, please consider checking it out and helping the channel. And if you like this video, well, I think you're going to like this one here too. Thanks so much for spending a few minutes with me.